All right, my name is Chris Campbell. I'm a practicing CPA, and I work with small businesses and individuals to help them pay the least amount of taxes possible by keeping them out of jail. So I wanted to talk today specifically to independent contractors, especially if you're in a situation where you're a contractor, consultant, and you may be a project-based consultant or independent contractor, and you find yourself working with a number of different clients throughout the course of the year. So usually when that happens, the person who has hired you for the project for tax purposes, they will issue you what's called a 1099. And nowadays, more specifically, a 1099 NEC for non-employee compensation. So if you do work for someone, they usually issue you that at the end of the year come tax time instead of a W-2. With that, they usually have your social or your business tax ID number, and they'll issue you the 1099. Now, what I do find with some of my independent contractor clients is that they've done a number of projects for a number of people, and they're either not sure if they got the 1099 or, sometimes folks aren't necessarily the best with keeping track of their tax documents. And maybe they received one and they misplaced it. Or sometimes the 1099 is not issued. When that happens, the big question I get from a lot of these types of clients is, A, do I have to report the income? How do I know if the 1099 was issued? There could be a number of circumstances where, again, I might have misplaced it. I might have moved. They may have a different address. They have my information. I don't work with them anymore. So how can I find out if A, a 1099 was indeed issued, and then B, do I need to report it? If a 1099 was not issued, do I need to report it on my taxes? So I wanted to give an answer to that. And I'll start with looking at actually B. The second question is that you need to report all income on your tax return, whether a 1099 was issued or not. Now, that is the letter of the law. Now, coming back to the first question is, well, how do I know the 1099 was received? Because a 1099 is the IRS knowing that you received that income. If it was filed with you, a copy is also sent to the IRS, which essentially lets the IRS know that you did receive this income, and it alerts the IRS to make sure that you report this income on your tax return. Now, how do you find out if one was filed? What you can now do, and I'm glad the IRS set this up, because this is very recent, within the last, I'd say 3 years or so, the IRS has set up an online portal where you can log into your account online and you want to pull in what's called a wage and income transcript. What it is, it's a listing of all the income and wage documents that the IRS has received on your behalf for a particular year. So they have it broken down by year. And if you go and pull this transcript, you can actually see what was filed on your behalf. So that includes salaries, that includes the 1099s, that also includes interest, dividends from financial institutions. So everything that was filed under your social security number, now that's the key thing, under your social security number will pop up in this wage and income transcript. Now, I'm not sure if they have this for tax ID numbers because that's a business. The IRS recently rolled out something for business tax ID, so you can pull up those transcripts for that. But in this instance, I'm talking strictly individual, and it would be tied to your social security number. So this is a good way that you can go and find out if a said 1099 was issued to you. I will say that if the IRS does not have a record of the 1099 filed, then technically speaking, they're not looking for it. They don't know it exists, at least from a transcript standpoint. So you may have some flexibility or some leeway with that because, again, no 1099, IRS isn't looking for it. However, one other new thing that you're going to have to look at, because I don't want you running around thinking that, oh, well, since there's no 1099, they're not going to know, I'm not going to report it. Now, with the new rule with the third-party payment apps, it may be reported in another way. I had talked about this in a previous video where I had mentioned that the third-party payments, so like your Cash Apps, your Venmos, your PayPal, they had a new report required. It used to be $600. They were going to have that in effect for 2023. So if you received more than $600 through these payment apps, then they actually had to report it to the IRS. So obviously, if they're reporting it to the IRS, then it's going to be income that they're going to be looking for. However, that threshold has now changed. And I did a video about this before because I just thought that the $600 reporting was just completely insane because people receive money for all sorts of things that aren't necessarily business related, nor in some instances are even taxable income. That $600 threshold was insanely low, but I think for 24, they're raising it to $5,000, which I think is more reasonable. And I think by 2025, I think it'll go up to 20,000. So definitely more reasonable amount. But the point being, if we use the $5,000 threshold, if you received your payments through these payment apps, then you have to expect that a 1099 will be filed. I believe it's a form 1099-K that shows that the payment processor paid you these amounts that you processed through your own. If the IRS does receive that, then it is income that they'll expect to be reported, and you'll have to probably answer some questions if you don't report that. I will put the link to where you can access your IRS online profile, and you can pull a lot of these things up. There's a bunch of other information in there as well, so it can be very useful. So I'm very happy that they've created this because this has saved tons of time on the phone trying to grab this information from the IRS. Kudos to them for that. But I'll put the link in below and you can use this to go access your wage and income transcripts. So that's all for now. I hope this was helpful. If you have any more questions about this or any other tax counter related questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. All right. That's all for now. And I'll talk to you in the next one.